We want the voices of the Americas dealing with our culture and our society and its needs.
We're getting them here now to the school, and you can see it definitely outside when we step out, and not just Hispanic, but a lot of immigrant cultures.
Yes.
What do we do here, and what programs are established here at WOU to make them be successful? Because a lot of the times, these are first-generation families that are coming, like you established, and if they don't feel supported, then a lot of them are more willing to leave as opposed to finish and
standard majority population here. The graduation rate is about 76%. Okay? The Hispanic graduation rate is 88%. We know that a lot of Hispanic kids come here whose first spoken language is Spanish, but who don't have a first written language of Spanish. They have a second spoken language of English, and maybe their first written language is English, and that is learned from their second spoken language, which is a very difficult learning process. Okay?
I came here when I was little, so I didn't learn the way that you're supposed to write Spanish, and then most of the history I don't know it either. So like at my age, at 21, I'm barely learning some of the Spanish history, and so I was gonna ask, have you thought about like having classes for Spanish speakers?
We teach that. We teach it in Spanish. I don't know if any of you have had the class. We've been experimenting with it. Okay. Yep, you can find in our books classes taught in Spanish by near native speakers.
Back when I was in high school, I was at ESL Aid for English as Second Language students, and I remember that there was a Western Oregon University speaker that came to. That's why she's the one that kind of told me all about the school here in English though. And I remember when I tried to tell the ESL students, all they saw was a bunch of paperwork, and since they were first generation, luckily I was a third generation, so I had two older brothers that told me, okay, this is what you got to do, this is how you do it, and plus they don't understand English, so how can you help them and their families be more informed in the high schools? Their parents also want them to succeed more than they have, of course, but they're sitting here with all this paperwork and they're like, oh my goodness, like if I can't do this, can I manage going to college? Like, can I last in those classes where I don't speak very good English, where I don't understand very much
Because we do know the paperwork is hard. That's one of the strategies. Since we don't have lots of people to do this,
right,
we set up days at the college, up from the college to the high school. And the admissions office goes to the high school and stays there all day. We have a schedule. And during that day, we will admit students from the start of the paperwork till the end. That day on the Hispanic kids think that college costs 4 times more than it actually costs. Now, it's expensive.
right,
But it's not $35,000 a year.
right. And tell you the truth, that's what I used to believe when I first started going to high school.
That's
that
what
it
we're
was
finding out.
$35,000 a year. Like, oh my goodness, like, how is this gonna happen for me?
Working day and night.
Yeah.
Well,
Maybe sleeping.
that's what we learned when we started. We asked questions a little bit late, but we finally said, well, how much? We started asking people, how much do you think it costs to go to college? Raise your hands if you think it costs $50,000, and if you think it costs $40,000. Well, they were almost the whole room was wrong about how much it cost. They were way off in terms of the cost. Thought it cost much more than it did.
Right.
It's expensive, but it's not as expensive as so impossible. We started as a university before Oregon was a state. We were here in 1835 when there were less than 16,000 people in the state. The people who came here came from Monmouth, Illinois, therefore our name, Monmouth, Oregon. They came as free Methodists. They were upset with the fact that their church in Monmouth, Illinois charged them a tax to go to church for the pew they had to sit in. So they came out here, and the women who came with them said they would move only if they started a church and a school. The school has survived. We're the oldest school west of the Mississippi River in the United States. Oldest public school. And so you're it, okay? You're the future. And I think that piece is the best thing we've ever done. We have stayed committed to bringing first-generation kids, Oregonians, through college. to make a good life in Oregon. And Oregon has always been a state that's been behind in things. This is a blue-collar state. It's always been a work-a-day state. Most of the history of this state has come from trees and from fish and from agriculture, where people got their hands dirty and got sweaty working. We are committed to the sons and daughters of people like that here.
The role for this university, and I think something that is important for us to keep in mind as we go forward, and it's something that I think the Oregon University system values, is access, affordability, yet quality. Access for a variety of students, both racially diverse, age diverse, also affordability. One of the things that we have been able to maintain is a fairly low tuition rate, certainly compared to the other Oregon schools, and even more so compared to other state schools like California. I noticed today in the Chronicle of Higher Education that came out today that it noted that students nationwide are choosing public institutions more frequently because of the cost. And they're making a move from private institutions to go to public institutions. So one of the roles that we have is to continue to make higher education affordable and accessible to a broad number of people. One of the things that you notice here when you start talking to students, over half of our students are first generation. And you talk to people that are on the faculty. My father went to college, didn't finish college. My sister was able to go to college after she was married. And I actually graduated college first. And I know what a difference higher education can make in a person's life, in the quality of life, in financial returns, but also in the quality of life in terms of how you engage the community, how you contribute to the community. So I believe that Western's greatest contribution can be to make higher education accessible to more young people who are first generation, so that they can have that same kind of experience that will make an impact both on them, their families, and the community. What makes Western, I think, a first choice, particularly for people in Marion and Polk counties? It's accessible. It's a desirable environment. One of the things we find from the young people that come on campus when they ask, I ask them, why do you want to come here? They said, the size. The size, the chance that I will have a better interaction with instructors because of the size, that I don't feel like it's so intimidating. And it's something where I can feel like there's a sense of community. And I've asked that both of Caucasian families and Latino families. And I think size and the fact that they can feel more comfortable is really important. Besides the price, besides the fact that it's still a quality education. Two of the areas that have been very popular on campus, not just with Latino students, but all students, pre-nursing. Nursing is an extraordinarily fast-growing field. And last fall, we started a cooperative nursing program with the Oregon Health and Science University that takes place in the Math and Nursing building. But what we did is we put into place a curriculum for pre-nursing that would be useful for a student who wishes to apply to any nursing school, not just the one that's here on campus. So the student comes here who's interested in nursing as a career option. They can take that curriculum, then they can apply to different places and increase their chances. That's one. Another that has grown in significant popularity is criminal justice. We had what I call a preview weekend on Saturday, where students and their families come here to inquire about, to find out about university, to find about going to college. And a number of students inquired about criminal justice. I think there will be a growing need for people who are bilingual to serve the business community. It seems to me to be an opportunity that is still opening up. And at least at other institutions where I've worked, that certainly has been a field of interest.